We're going to continue now with Stories of Florence in a session organized by one of our conference sponsors, Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina, which has also done an incredible amount of work to aid in disaster relief. Moderating this panel are Dana Ellis, Director of Programs, and Mercedes Sanders, Supervisor of Kids Summer Meals and Child and Adult Care Food Programs, including after-school meals.
The Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina will be marking its 40th year of service in 2020 and currently has over 900 partner agencies throughout the 34-county service area it covers. The Food Bank is a part of Feeding the Carolinas, an association of food banks in North and South Carolina, all a part of Feeding America Network. The Food Bank has several programs geared towards child hunger, such as Kids Cafe, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program, providing after-school meals to children, school pantries, which support student and student family food needs, Weekend Power Pack, meeting nutritional needs of children during the weekends, and last but not least, Summer Food Service Program, also known to the Food Bank as Kids Summer Meals. In 2017 to 2018, the Food Bank served 16,851 children through Feeding America and federal food programs. During the recent disasters, many in our community, those agencies were affected to the point where service to a population already at risk became more difficult than usual. This presented an opportunity for the Food Bank to expand its efforts through Summer Food Service Program by participating in their disaster response resource, providing meals to children while school was out of session due to the disaster. The Food Bank operated 5 SFSP disaster response sites, serving 483 children, 3,346 meals in Moore, Duplin, and Craven counties. Today, we would like to present some of those partners and discuss their experience with disaster relief and preparedness. Now, Mercedes will introduce our partner agency panelists.
Good afternoon, everyone. So first we have Pastor Faye Coates, who's the Executive Director, wave your hand, of Restoring Hope Center, located in Laurinburg, North Carolina. Pastor Faye has served with the organization for 17 years. Restoring Hope is a multifaceted agency. They assist clients with food, clothing, job readiness, and several other resources, including the Summer Food Service Program. Restoring Hope participates in summer food by establishing and managing multiple feeding sites throughout Scotland County for children every year during the summer. Restoring Hope has worked with the Food Bank since 2001. Next, we have Reverend Brian Cornelius, the Chief Executive Officer of Adelphia CDC Incorporated. Adelphia provides educational enrichment for children and youth along with family and parent engagement. Adelphia CDC Incorporated works to ensure all people, regardless of race, religion, gender, or socioeconomic status, have access to resources in the community. Reverend Cornelius works collaboratively with the Food Bank and Bryant Chapel AME Zion Church to secure foods and provide distribution to the Cove City community and surrounding areas. Adelphia participates in the Summer Food Service Program as an open site and has worked with the Food Bank for 3 years. And finally, representing the Food Bank partner agencies is Ms. Earlene Rivers. She is the Executive Director of Diversity Nurtures Achievements Community Youth Center, which we call DNA. DNA After School Enrichment proposes to minimize the outlook of poverty in Warsaw and Duplin County by providing critical needs services to approximately 30 underserved youth each year. Earlean advocates for children to have the same opportunities no matter economic circumstances. DNA partners with the Food Bank as the Summer Food Service Program site and Child and Adult Care Food Program at-risk after-school meal site. They have been a partner with the Food Bank since 2014.
On the panel representing the Food Bank, we have Dave Goodrich. Dave is the Director of Volunteer Engagement. He has worked with the food bank for 5.5 years as an employee and 17.5 years as a volunteer. Dave will provide more insight on the food bank's disaster relief efforts. Thank you all for being here today. So to all of our panelists, please tell the audience about what you do and how you work with your community and the food bank. Whoever wants to start first is fine.
Good afternoon. My name is Earlene Rivers. I bring you greetings from Diversity Nurtures Achievement Community Youth Center, DNA. We are located in Warsaw, North Carolina. We serve 30 youth per day, not per year. We provide after-school care and summer camp, and we also consider it as a disaster relief site by the food bank and also by FEMA.
Good afternoon. My name is Faye. I'm the Executive Director of Restoring Hope Center in Laurinburg, North Carolina. That's in Scotland County. And of course, we are multifaceted, multi-diverse outreach center handling things in pantries and distribution to many places throughout our state and actually in 2 other states. It's our great privilege to serve God by serving people.
Brian T. Cornelius, pastor of Bryant Chapel in Coal City, North Carolina. We are the type of people that like to serve, and we are continuing to serve. We are not only recovering, but we are trying to help as we recover. My own home had 4 feet of water to come into it, and some of my membership had as much as 18 feet of water. We have a site now today, because of this program, a food pantry disaster recovery area in which we just served 100 families on yesterday. Persons are still recovering from Florence.
Well, thank you all for sharing. I will start with our first question. And this is to each one of our partner agency panelists. Tell us if your regular service was affected by the storm, or did this damage in your region add pressure to your level of service, and if so, for how long?
DNA, shortly after the storm, DNA transitioned from a traditional after-school care program to an emergency site. We served over 100 meals per day immediately following the storm, and what we thought was going to be maybe 2 weeks ended up being 6 weeks. But we realized that the youth, since they weren't able to go to school, they were still hungry. So we provided meals for them and their families for approximately the whole 6 weeks. We served whomever. If they didn't come to us, we went out into the community to deliver meals.
Well, we had multiple opportunities to be able to reach out to the people in our communities. We actually were in 26 different locations on the ground with our folks. Teams that went out, of course, distribution went out via trucks all over our county, all over several other counties, actually. It's a lot that goes on, and it's too much to be able to incorporate and to say in this venue. But there was a whole lot that went on. We distributed over $400,000 in product throughout the disaster-ridden areas.
We did not see it as pressure. We took it as pleasure. It was a ministry for us, and it's still ongoing. It has not stopped. And we seized the opportunity to treat the least of these as the most important persons in our community.
Can each of you provide us some examples or personal client stories on how the storm affected your agency or your area, or how the summer food service program resource was able to impact those in your community?
Immediately following the storm, by my neighborhood really not being affected that much, I felt that, the rest of the town was okay. So one morning I said, well, I'll go to town. Once the grocery stores opened back up, when I got there, the stores were bare. So even if the families had money or they were SNAP recipients, they couldn't spend it. So that made us get into action. I contacted Mercedes. Maybe she didn't respond back quick enough. I was on the phone with Mr. Morris. I said, okay, somebody's got to tell me something. And they told me that they were in meetings trying to work some things out. And I think maybe the Sunday after the storm, an 18-wheeler truck came in with supplies. That morning, I missed church. But by that evening, all of the supplies were completely exhausted. So that showed us that it was a need.
I'd like to give a real big shout out to the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina, to the Summer Food Service Program for making it possible for us to be able to get supplies, kids' meals, into one particular community we went into. These children were displaced for a long period of time because of the storm, but those that were able to remain in some of the apartments had no food resource, had no transportation, and for several weeks we were able to meet the needs of those children because of the kids' summer meals that were given to us. Even though it was not an organized program in the typical summer meals program, it was an opportunity that we had to be able to spread the love of the food bank to those kids in that community.
By being in this room, I'm encouraged. My faith is strengthened in the human spirit. It's because of folk like Dana and Mercedes that we were able to survive. I did not have to reach out to Mercedes. She reached out to me. Relationship is of the utmost importance. And to continue those relationships in good times so that we would come together with a better strength. A three-pronged cord is not easily broken. And because of their outreaching towards us, we were able to help literally thousands of people in our community. I applaud the Kids Summer Meal Program, for it looks beyond just putting food on the table, but it cares about people's lives. And because they cared about people's lives, we were able to make the transition back to some sense of normalcy because of their help.
Dave, this question is for you. What type of support did you need the most to maintain service, and how did the food bank and other supporting organizations react to those needs?
Well, the food bank has a pretty extensive disaster planning process, and we're connected with organizations at the state, the national level, as well as regional level. For example, we're part of the state emergency response team, which is part of North Carolina Division of Emergency Management. Emergency management is the ones that hold the Emergency Operations Center open 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so we get a lot of support and help from them. But I'd say probably the most important attribute we have are these folks like these guys right here that are representing all the many partner agencies who have that localized knowledge on the ground, that can-do spirit, that can-do attitude, and provide us information real time right after the hurricane hits. And that's really hard to come by. I've been in meetings on the state level, and I can say oftentimes the intelligence that we get from these folks, these leaders in the community, is better than sometimes what statewide law enforcement gets. Now, don't anybody take that as a criticism of statewide law enforcement, because that's not what that was. That was a compliment to these local leaders who, sometimes your house was flooded out, but you always found time to communicate with us and coordinate with us and find out what we need. The supplies vary from place to place. One of the things about the hurricane, this hurricane, was there was pockets that needed water, There were pockets of communities that needed cleaning material. You know, it's non-food, but we do also distribute some non-food essential items when that's what's called for out there, because we're all trying to pitch in and do what we can. We also, of course, have folks without power. So you're looking for ready-to-eat meals, things that you can eat without having to heat things up and all that. And that's normally what comes in at the beginning, those types of things, and then they modify as you go on. But we have a lot of partners on all levels, and none more important than these localized partners with the local knowledge.
Thank you, Dave. So this last question is to all of our panelists. Is there one piece of advice that you could give today to the audience that could help them if we see such disasters again?
Make preparations. Hurricane Florence was a storm of great devastation, but we have to realize that someone is in a storm every day. So after Florence, my facility is set up where we have supplies on hand. We don't wait just until the big storm comes. Somebody's in a storm every day, so we need to make preparations.
I guess if I would say any one thing about what we need to do is to recognize that we are one cog in a great wheel. And when I look out over this audience today, I realize that because I have a part in being one of those cogs, collectively, all the people in this room and all the people across our great state are getting the job done. So I want to say to all my colleagues, all my friends, all the people that are out there doing this great work, how much I appreciate and value the work that each one of you are doing. Together, collaboratively, we can get it done if we look to our Savior first and we look to each other secondly.
I pastor in Western Craven County, and I have the pleasure of being around Tabari Wallace. With a personality like that in your county, you must think outside the box. One point of advice, because these are children, these are the treasures that we have been blessed with. Find a way to make it work. Use all the help at your disposal, even Tabari Wallace.
Always tough following a preacher, isn't it? I mean, I just would reiterate what everybody here has already said. I mean, you do need to have a plan in place. We had a comment by our CEO and president that was hyperbole, but he said, develop a plan and make sure it's heavy enough that you can throw it out the window if you need to throw it out the window. But that doesn't mean don't plan. His point was you have to plan to be flexible in your planning as well, but plan first, for sure. When we activate our emergency action team, which is about 30 employees in the food bank, we activate it during a hurricane before the hurricane hits. It's too late to activate it after the hurricane hits. Likewise, to your point, Faye, you have to develop your communications and coordination and your relationships before the hurricane hits. Everybody's nice, but it helps when you know everybody already and you've developed those relationships. Pretty hard to develop relationships when everybody's running around like a chicken with their head cut off because there's 24 hours worth of work to do and 12 hours to do it in, right? And then the other thing is it is an ongoing concern still. Don't always go by the media because the media hasn't said a whole lot lately about Florence, although there has been some reports recently. But we've distributed over 10 million pounds of food in disaster relief from the food bank using our partner agencies. And it's a big job with lots of different partners and players, But it's continuing. We have 6 branches throughout our 34 county service area, and 3 of them are still routinely doing disaster relief. We still have open satellite warehouses where we store things that are exclusively for disaster relief. So people still are not out of the woods. Maybe that number is shrinking. That's good. That's what we want. But realize that it's a very long, ongoing process, even when you're not seeing it every night in the media or newspaper, or other people aren't speaking of it. So plan and follow through as best you can, and let's all work together. And I can tell you right now, I was around in Matthew, and I was even around at Floyd, and we did better at Matthew than we did at Floyd, and I feel like we did better at Florence than we did just 2 years earlier at Matthew. So we're learning. Let's keep working together, and we can make a difference out there.
Well, thank you all for sharing with us your experiences and some advice to our colleagues on how to prepare in disaster situations. The Food Bank would like to thank you all and everyone present today. Thank you for all the service that you do in feeding our children in the communities. We ask that you contact your local food bank to see how you can partner with us, not just during times of disaster, but all year long. So thank you very much.